to go live, so we're just waiting. There we go. Good morning, everyone. This is the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs, and we're here on this lovely Friday morning, picking up our work early before our town meeting day break week. First item of business is to learn a little bit about an issue with the regional emergency management committees that we had kind of expanded their role in the last biennium, and we're having a little bit of trouble getting a quorum there. So I'm going to see if we could have our guests from Vermont Emergency Management tee up that issue, and then Tim is going to walk us through some language that we could do as a committee bill, or we might think about putting on our boards and commissions bill. So Eric and Erica, welcome to the committee, and I'll defer to you to who wants to go first. tee this up.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having us this morning. For the record, my name is Erica Bordeman. I'm the Director of Vermont Emergency Management in the Department of Public Safety. Very happy to be here. I'm just going to speak for just a quick minute, and then I'm going to pass it over to Deputy Director Eric Forand, who does have a couple of slides just to kind of tee this issue up, so that to re-educate the committee on what a regional emergency management committee is. This committee was instrumental in helping us to evolve previous local emergency planning committees that were focused on hazardous materials planning to an all hazards planning construct at the local and regional level last year, which we were really thankful for. We're hoping that this is a pretty straightforward correction to the law to enable the regional emergency management committees to maximize their membership and time and do some really good work at the local level. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Eric Forand, and we'll stay on to help answer any questions afterwards.
All right, good morning. Thank you for the invite, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and kind of explain this technical update that we'd like to have done. I was going to share my screen, but it says that that is disabled, so I didn't know if we were able to.
We'll dispense. Usually what we do just in the future is get those slides ahead of time, and then we see them on our own devices so that we can still see you on Zoom. Just given the time constraints, I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and do the screen share for this run.
Understood. Thank you. So just quickly, I wanted to step through kind of the genesis of the REMCs, and Erica had alluded to that. They basically replaced the local emergency planning committees, the LEPCs, that were instituted in relation to some tier 1 hazmat programs. So we instituted these in the state of Vermont. We, as you know, lack county government. So these are kind of our county level emergency management groups. And we established them, as it says, to coordinate the emergency planning and preparedness activities to improve the region's ability. So back in July of 2021, we created them, and then from September through November of 21 was a transitional period to get them up and running. So we have about a year's worth of evidence on their ability to achieve quorum, and so that's why we wanted to make some technical adjustments to help facilitate their ability to get to quorum and get what they want done. This was just a quick slide on the geographic dispersion of them. They are roughly related to the regional planning committees, except for Northwest, Northeast, which we had to break down into 2 extras because of the size of those areas. Quick breakdown of what they do. They coordinate the regional all hazard emergency management activities. So again, they kind of replace that county level that some other states have. For us at EM, they allow us to have a middle ground between the towns and the state. They meet quarterly, and their members develop and maintain a regional plan. So again, we have towns with their local emergency management plans moving up to regional plans, with the idea that in a event, it all response starts locally, and as a local town can assist itself, and then a regional area can assist itself, and then the state can assist. But that's the idea with these committees. They can get together and meet to form those bonds before an event happens. And then 3 of the other things that we utilize these groups for is representation at other groups. So one of the members in each REMC attends the local emergency planning committee meetings. So now that that is a state level, they go to that and represent and then bring information back to their groups as it relates to hazmat again. One individual from each will attend the THIRA and SPR, so the Threat Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment and the State Preparedness Review. Those are both projects that VEM has to manage to look at our threats and hazards every year and look at our preparedness and look at how we stand in response and any gaps. So we're always looking for regional representation to come to those meetings so we know how the locals are situated in their ability to respond to events. So that is one of the benefits of this group. And another is that they can also attend the Integrated Preparedness Planning Workshop, the IPPW. So again, we're always looking for locals. The idea of that is to integrate all the towns, all the areas into a statewide training and exercise plan so we can run exercises that are coordinated across the state, provide trainings that are coordinated across the state. So again, looking at the state as an entity, these representation from this group allows us to get that local view. So that's kind of what these REMCs do for us. For them at the local level, at their quarterly meetings, there's representation from each town, the EMDs, the fire service, other emergency services. So they have an ability to get together and coordinate their efforts and coordinate their ideas and coordinate their own trainings as well. So it's a great opportunity for them to network. So why we're here today is quickly, the current quorum language basically states that each REMC is made up of voting members, and the voting members are made up of one individual from each town, which is the EMD, and then another member that's from the emergency services. So each town gets 2 voting members, and then just by default, quorum is a majority of voting members. So just as an example, Addison County has 21 towns, so 2 members per town, 42 voting members, so quorum would be 22. Or for example, Bennington is 13 towns, 26 members, so their quorum is 14. So what we had been seeing is that that's a high number, right? These REMCs, we would like high amounts of participation, but because they're relatively new and it's volunteer, we haven't got there yet. We are trending in the right direction, but what we're seeing is that we haven't reached quorum at a majority of these meetings. Out of the 13, I think 2 have reached it over the last year. So what we want to do is kind of remove that stumbling block, that barrier for them to get to quorum, because what we were seeing was that because they didn't reach quorum, then they weren't effectively able to pass their bylaws or approve their minutes or vote in their chairs and vice chairs. So it became a stumbling block that they felt they were in this kind of middle ground where they couldn't officially do stuff, but yet they were still meeting. So we want to be able to remove that stumbling block, get them to quorum, allow them to pass their bylaws, appoint their chairs, and approve their minutes. And we went down a lot of rabbit holes, and I spoke to way more lawyers than I normally do to try to come up with ideas on how to best come up with a solution to the issue. And we really batted around quite a few. And what we ended up with is that we wanted to basically allow them to decide what their quorum is, because they're the ones that can best decide what a representational number would be for them. And what we didn't want to do was, apply a specific number to them that they had to then try to reach up to. So we wanted to give them the opportunity to come up with their own number. And the other thing that we wanted to do was not penalize those that were attending the meetings because of others not attending the meetings. So we got a core group, for example, in Addison County that shows up. We want them to be able to do what they need to do, even if they weren't reaching quorum. So we wanted to remove that quorum roadblock so that core group could get to work and do the things that they needed to do. And then obviously they will reach out and try to make attendance better. And we're working to make attendance better. And that's one of our goals is full attendance. But to get there, I think we needed to remove the stumbling block. So what we did was we came up with a proposal that they can basically decide their own quorum. But one of the stepping stones is to change the quorum requirements, you need to get to quorum. So what we did was we came up with language that quorum will be...
That's an incredibly fair point. Sorry.
Yeah, it was kind of a round and round. So,
I will say, Eric, we're particularly laughing because there's been a kind of like rolling theme of some meta stuff like this, like a committee to get rid of committees proposal that we had this week. This is kind of it's in the air right now. So thanks. There's a little Parks and Rec humor going on here.
Studies.
right. Like I mentioned, it was a lot of lawyer meetings to get to this kind of final product that you are able to decide up until December. We're going to put quorum in there in the we're going to put quorum in the statute so they can achieve quorum, and then up until December they can get it and they can decide what their quorum is going to be after that. I'm going to end my slideshow. Okay, there we go. The basic language is that the regional emergency management's 5 voting members up until December, and then they can re-vote, and after that they can adjust to whatever they want. And one of the reasons we did whatever they wanted, we actually heard it in both directions. Some wanted to lower their quorum to make sure that everyone had the ability to get it. Some other ones wanted their quorum a little bit higher to make sure that they had the representation that they wanted. So again, they were the ones in the best position to decide what their quorum should be. So that's why we developed this language. Tucker, Tim, and I came up with the idea of lowering it, allowing them to get through that kind of loophole, use that as the window of opportunity, I'd say, to reach quorum, spend the year getting the quorum, and then to develop what they needed going forward. So in a nutshell, that's what we're looking at. So was there any questions about what we're trying to achieve here? And I didn't get into the specific legal language because, Tim has that.
So I think what we'll do is take any questions about sort of the problem, if that wasn't clear, and then we'll have our legislative counsels here who can walk us through the draft language that I know your attorney Tucker. We have a legislative counsel also named Tucker, so not to be confused with the attorney whose name happens to also be Tucker that was working on the emergency management side. But our legislative counsel, Tim Devlin, is here to walk us through the draft language that I think tries to capture your proposal. Any questions from the committee before we dive into the language?
No, pretty clear.
Just quickly, Eric, do you foresee after that December 31st date that there would be any that would possibly go fewer than 5?
Not necessarily. The only potential issue that I see is Grand Isle actually has 5 currently as their number. So whether or not they might lower theirs to be able to hit quorum going forward, but they could get to 5 by December, rewrite the rules and theoretically lower it. But other than that, no, I don't see an issue.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point. Downtown.
Okay. So Tim, would you please walk us through, this is listed under Tim's name today as draft request 230945. And we'll figure out how we want to approach this, whether we do this as a committee bill or try to attach it to our H125. But either way, I'd like to see if we can make this work. So Tim, please walk us through the language.
Thank you very much, Chair McCarthy. Good morning, everybody. For the record, my name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel. Before you, you have draft 1.6 of what is drafted as a committee bill currently, number 23-0945. This bill proposes to lower quorum requirements for regional emergency management committees to 5 voting members until December 31st, 2023, and permit a committee to subsequently vote to modify its quorum requirements upon initially meeting. The amendment in particular to existing statutory language, is in section 1, which amends Title 20 VSA Section 6. Titled Local Organization for Emergency Management. Subsection D in particular pertains to the emergency management committees and their composition. And actually, I'd like to point out here, there was no quorum requirement prior to this. It was just the default under the open meetings law of VSA 310 through 12. The new language we have will appear after, halfway through page 2. And I've left in some of the language pertaining to voting members and non-voting members just to provide a little bit more context to the committee. But you'll see on line 14, a new subdivision C, which states as follows. C, meeting quorum requirement. A regional emergency management committee may vote at any time to modify its quorum requirement. Of course, there is a problem that was pointed out just now that, of course, in order to change the quorum requirements, you must have a quorum, and that is currently a problem. So to address that, turning to section 2 at the bottom of page 2, breaking into 3, we have an interim quorum requirement, and this is session law, so it will not be codified, but states as follows. Notwithstanding Title 20 VSA, Section 6D3C, until December 31st, 2023, not fewer than 5 voting members of a regional emergency management committee shall constitute quorum for the conduct of the meeting, provided, however, that a regional emergency management committee may vote at any time to modify its quorum requirement. And then with an effective date to take effect upon passage.
Questions for Tim about language on the page? Representative Byron.
Quick question on the language not on the page, and I'm sure you said this, but I missed it. How many committee members are they currently designated as?
Each town may designate 2 voting members, and that's in A, the top of page 2, and then non-voting members. Let's see, I'm trying to think if that's specified or not. I don't think there's a cap on that.
Okay.
Eric, would it be fair to say that there's a very variability in terms of towns actually designating their members? And so some towns have and are really active, and other towns haven't designated anyone. So the size of the committees right now really varies.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And that's one of the things that we were trying to kind of adjudicate here was that we want to not penalize the towns that are appointing. So we have some towns that have gone to every meeting and they're participating as they should. And then there's some towns that haven't appointed anyone and don't show up. So again, we're trying to fix that in another way, but we want to ensure that the towns that are showing up consistently are able to do what they want to do.
Representative Morgan.
Yeah, just a quick question for Erica or Eric. I just noticed that Erica or Erica Eric, you actually said Grand Isle County, which is part of most of my district. But you said these management committees mirror the RPCs.
Yes.
And there's so many different groups I'm trying to keep track of in my head. Is the RPC for the northwest part of the state, isn't it Grand Isle County and Franklin County together? So wouldn't that actually relieve them of that problem? You know what I'm saying? Am I making sense with that question?
In the Northwest, because of the geographic size, we actually split that RPC into 2 REMCs.
Okay.
And that's a lot of acronyms. I apologize, but
No, I understand the acronyms. I got them. So Grand Isle County is truly segregated out from, in that case. So for their initial one, they got to get everybody there to make it happen, and then they could reconstitute under this proposal to lower that to say 3 or whatever.
correct. And Sean's doing a good job up there of getting participation. So
Who is it? I'm sorry. Up there?
Coleman.
Coleman is the last name?
Sean Coleman.
Sean Coleman. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
And Tim, would it be fair to say that if, in the case of Grand Isle, if some of the towns after the quorum is reset on members and those members show up at the meetings and say, hey, we want to change the quorum so it's higher so that when we do business that, we make sure everybody's here, they could do that. This gives them the flexibility up and down, right?
Yes, they could reset it again and again if they want to, probably controlled by the prerogative of the chair who was elected. So,
Representative.
So to further on that, what you're saying is if there was maybe a more important issues than at other times, the committee could basically say, okay, we're going to raise that quorum to 7 or 8 for that particular vote to come up at the next meeting. I don't know. I must have missed how many meetings they hold, if they're regular meetings or if it's just when certain things come up. But again, I'm just wondering if that's the process that could happen. Because that would be important to me, to make sure that more folks were involved if there was a very important issue that came up.
Yes, as written, it's regional emergency committees may vote at any time to modify. So that doesn't put a cap on raising it or lowering it in any instance they want.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to do that. Eric, there are quarterly meetings, right? Is this regular?
Quarterly.
But obviously they could be,
Anytime they could.
yeah.
Okay.
But the regular meetings are quarterly.
Thank you.
Great. So committee, this seems really straightforward to me. I never want to do anything in too much haste, but while we're kind of on it, do folks have an opinion about, just kind of getting this out or waiting, or how we would sort of resolve this?
I just think if you're looking for opinions on it, that it maybe should be standalone and not put into something else, just because it seems pretty straight and simple.
Yeah, it's an easy one.
Forward, but-
Okay. That's fine with me. Representative Hankin.
I have one really quick question, and I think we've discussed it before, and it's not about the actual bill. When we have the draft request, is it possible to put a heading next to it on our webpage that says what the bill pertains to? Because people looking for it would have to click on and scroll
Good
through
point.
so many
Yeah.
bills
That's a fair step.
that it would be nice to know that this was about emergency management.
I think that is that. And so I would say also like we have now a miscellaneous liquor and lottery drafting request that's up there for today. It might be good as you sort of look at all the things that are up today. There's a drafting request number, and then it parenthetically says
That would be great.
something
Thank
from the
you so
title.
much.
That's a good suggestion. So I think this language is straightforward as well. Representative Higley, at the sort of pleasure of the committee, I'd be fine with us just moving this now, and then it would be up for action when we get back. I usually wouldn't say, let's look at something and then vote it out, but this is just so straightforward, and it's causing problems for emergency management, and I just want them to be able to meet and get their work done.
I concur.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to move draft 1.6, our committee bill?
I'll make that motion that we move committee bill 23-0945 as presented.
Representative Morgan, would you like to report the bill maybe?
Sure.
Okay. Excellent. Any further discussion on this, or any feedback or comments, Eric or Erica, before we vote, you'd like to make for us?
Just thank you for your time, and we appreciate the assistance with this correction to get us back on track. We appreciate the time.
And
Thank you
I'll
for your
echo
work.
that. Thank you very much, everybody, for your leadership help on this.
All right. Clerk shall commence to call a roll.
Representative Byron.
Yes.
Representative Boyden, yes. Representative Mingo.
Yes.
Representative Morgan.
Yes.
Representative Hooper of Burlington. Representative Markey.
Yes.
Representative Chase.
Yes.
Representative Waters Evans.
Yes.
Representative Hooper of Randolph.
Yes.
Representative Newton.
Just plain yes.
Representative Higley.
Yes.
Representative McCarthy.
Yes.
1101.
I didn't follow that.
I think we're all ready to go on time.
Sounds like it's needed.
Thank you, Eric and Erica, for your diligence on this. And I know this is, we set you up last biennium with kind of a bad quorum situation. So I hope that this allows the committees to get their work done. And, we'll be checking back in either later in the session or the beginning of next year and see how things are going.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. All right, we are ahead of schedule. Excellent. This committee is just firing on all cylinders today. So I would say, committee, we have at least 3 amendments, 2 that will be presented from Representative Sibilia and 1 from Representative Gregoire on H 429. to hear before we head up to the floor. So I think we can try to see if the sponsors of either of those can come and see us ahead of schedule. I had said 9:15, but that conversation just went a little faster than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Figuring out the timing of things is one of the hardest parts of being schedule up here.
Are you saying you're having a hard time with it?
Funny guy this morning, huh?
He's always the funny guy. Representative Chase is the funny guy. I mean,
Say that.
Andrew, did he say he was gonna send you those slides that they had, Andrew?
I got
Better than
it.
us, Kathy.
Yeah, I just use them, I'll use them to formulate, use them.
have one of these.
If you don't mind sending them to me, are you gonna send them to everybody? Or?
We'll post them. Why
Yeah, I'd like
don't
them
why don't we go offline?